Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. A little later in the program, we're going to look at open records as well as should we know where all the special credits are going in government. But first, let's talk about the rural area. A new caucus in the legislature called the, do I have this right, the Rural Caucus?
The Rural Caucus.
That sounds like a hootenanny. Let's say hello to Tim Dore, representative, Republican. Glad to have you.
Thank you, John.
And from the Senate side, glad to have you, Mary Hodge, a Democrat.
Democrat.
Oh, you needed to say that, didn't you? It was obvious. All right, so you two decided to start this caucus of rural legislators or rural areas to be better represented in the legislature. Let me start over here. You know, it seems as though rural Colorado is getting angrier and angrier at the state government. In these last few years, it's just grown. Last year, it went to a fever pitch. So much so, some rural areas wanted to start their own state. Why did you feel you needed to change this?
Well, partly I think that's, there have been a lot of radio hosts that have built this up. You get the whole thing going,
Yeah,
and
baby.
all of a sudden we've got war on rural Colorado.
There is a war on rural Colorado.
But if we get people together in a room that are actually from rural Colorado, discussing things about rural Colorado instead of the hype, we can maybe make some changes that actually deal with what may be the problem.
Bring it over here. Last year seemed to be the straw that broke the rural back, if you will. I mean, people in the rural areas, this hashtag war on rural CO, between the gun laws and the electric mandate. What was the pivoting point that really turned this from an uneasy relationship to what's been termed a war on rural Colorado? What made the difference?
Well, I mean, for me, and you mentioned two pieces of legislation. Actually, there was multiple pieces of legislation on the gun side, and then what we know is Senate Bill 252, which dealt with the mandates with the rates on renewable energies. And so after session ended, I ended up going back to the district, and I do as I
and tell people where that district is.
Sure, my district is basically all southeastern Colorado, so it's as far north as Washington County, then all the way down to the Oklahoma border, then across to Trinidad. So it ends up being about 20,200 plus square miles of 80,000 people.
Wow.
So you're dealing
cheap land.
Yes, a lot of spaces in between populations. But when I went back after the session went over, it wasn't just one question at a time, it was numerous questions saying, why all of a sudden has the Colorado legislature decided to treat rural Colorado more as an outhouse than anything else? And so I said, and I agree, there was a lot of things where there was no conversation to be had from rural legislators. We were sort of sitting on the sideline, things happened, they were affecting my constituents, but they felt they had no voice. And so over the summer, Senator Hodge and I had the opportunity to have a conversation about this and went forward with an idea of saying, well, let's start bringing these issues to the table. And it's really not just energy issues, not just gun issues. We've got landfill issues. There's issues that are not going to be sexy as these other ones that are going to have huge effects on these communities in rural Colorado if they're taken from a lens that only looks through it from an urban standpoint.
Are there fewer rural legislators today than there were? Let's go back. You've been in the legislature 14 years.
14 years.
I mean, tell me about the change. What has been the change in representation down here from your point of view?
Well, rural legislators tend to be more Republican in redistricting because each of us has to represent the same number of people. You have to spread your distances out when you have 22,000 square miles of 8,000 people. So larger distances, fewer people. And as people move into the urban areas, it's smaller area, more population.
But doesn't redistricting also change that? I mean, we were talking before that there are really only 6 Senate districts that are truly rural now. All the other ones kind of go up into suburban areas or rural areas. I mean, that's the Democratic map is one that got through the courts in the last go around. Did that have something to do with it?
Probably. I mean, whoever's in charge wants the advantage, and we do.
And these have the advantage, certainly, but Democrats are part of this caucus. This is bipartisan.
That's absolutely.
So why would Democrats join in as well? And how many Democrats to Republicans?
I think you said there's 9 Democrats, 17 Republicans. We are, because I'm concerned about all of Colorado. We don't just I live in Brighton. I represent more than Brighton. I represent Bennett. I represent Strasburg. And it's my job to do the right thing for the whole state.
Well, give me the rural issues. Let's go. I want to go from your side as a Democrat, because I, as one of those nasty talk show hosts that pump this up,
Yeah.
I know what that is.
Yeah,
but tell
exactly.
me, what is the issue? I mean, what is not being understood? And for those of us in the rural or urban areas, or excuse me, the suburban and urban areas, what is it we don't get about rural Colorado?
I don't think you get how our schools are funded. Small populations, little chance to put things together, so it's much more expensive to run a school per pupil. Rural broadband. Rural people are at a terrific disadvantage if their kids can't be on the internet and learn all those wonderful things of. They can't watch me on
Right.
channel whatever.
So it's technology, it's money. What else? What is it that, that we need to understand about you hicks out in the rural area?
Well, I mean, part of it, some of it's right here in my cup, water.
Really?
Water issues for the agriculture community are the difference between survival or not surviving. And the urban environment, while water is going to be essential for everybody because you need it to live, there's the balancing of it. How much water is going to be used for ag, and how do we balance that with an increasing population in the urban areas that use water, and in an argument, for argument's sake, use water in ways sometimes that isn't necessarily the most beneficial use of water.
It says you. I like my showers. So,
Yes, but you have to have your green lawn clear out to the curb.
what's wrong with my green
On the
lawn?
new golf course.
Just because you don't golf, I'm not taking away your tractors. Don't take away my golf course. All right, but let's talk a little bit about agriculture. If there is an industry out in your areas, it's agriculture and it's cattle. Am I right on that?
Mm-hmm.
And last year, cattle ranchers were upset about a bill that went through for bobbing the tails of animals. I forget exactly what that was.
Tail docking.
Tail docking.
Tail ducking.
Which actually didn't go anywhere. It stopped.
Did it?
Yeah, it did not pass.
Oh, sounds fun, tail docking. I don't know what it is, but
Not fun for the cow.
But count me in. These issues. What is agriculture's big issue? What is the cattleman's big issue? What's their beef? Pardon the pun.
Well, I mean, you'll deal with issues on the cattle side that are land-based issues. It's private property rights. It's being able to use the property so that you can grow what you need to grow, corn, wheat, different alfalfas. Won't get into the other
The other stuff.
the new stuff that we're trying to
crops.
do more in Colorado. And then cattle and really, honestly, the people in my district, they want government out of their lives. They want to be able to use the land as their grandfathers, great-grandfathers, and before that used the land, and raise their families the way they raise their families, and have the resources and assets that we know they have in the urban areas. And that goes back to the rural telecom issue. They want to have those things, but they want government out of their lives, but making sure that they are not treated in a way where they felt like they're being stepped on or ignored. And that's what's happening a lot
Does that
today.
sound right to you? That most people in the rural areas, they just want to be left alone?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that why the gun issue was such a hot button issue for them?
I don't know. The gun issue, I have some problems with that being a rural issue. How many guns are in Denver? I mean, I'm sure there are a lot more guns in the city and county of Denver than all of rural Colorado.
But our Democratic governor said, this is going to be an inconvenience for rural folks.
And is it more inconvenient for rural people than it is for you?
No, it's pretty inconvenient for me. I
See?
hate it.
Right, and you're not rural.
I am in my heart.
Oh, well, in that case.
All right. So, talk to me a little bit about the gun issue. As part of the Democratic majority that put through that, was that a mistake?
Oh, no. Gun safety is never a mistake.
And so the people of your area supported that?
For the most part, yes.
Really?
Well, I have people that did not, but yes, the majority did.
And give me your sense of that.
Well, I mean, the gun issue to me actually is one of those issues. It isn't purely a rural issue by any means. It transcends into a liberty issue, into a freedom issue, of which the rural communities really hold tight to, and the Second Amendment being one of them. But gun safety, as Senator Hodge said, that's an issue. But in rural Colorado, they teach gun safety from age 2 on. There's a familiarity with guns, and there's an appropriate respect of guns, and that's taught. And I think a lot of the issues that we dealt with last year were reactions to tragically what had happened in our society, and in turn turned then into a stomping on liberties, and what the rural communities felt was once again another action by the state legislative branch.
Well, let me push you on your side.
Sure.
There was an effort to try to make another state. This was fun. And I think we all knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. But out of whatever 10 counties, a resolution to move forward with that idea or to really only passed in a couple. So while these rural counties were really hacked off at the state government, they weren't hacked off enough to leave. What does that tell you?
Well, I mean, for me, and I represent 9 counties. Of those 9, I think I had 5 of them that joined the movement, and 1 of them that actually voted to secede from the state or to advance it. And I think the bottom line for them was, we outside in the eastern part of Colorado, and I think you can speak for all rural Colorado, felt that they were not being heard. And at some point, they had to make that voice louder. And it took an aggressive action of saying, we're going to leave the state, we're going to take our ball and go away from this court and find somewhere else to play.
Have Democrats waken up to that? I mean, I know the governor has now gone around on a goodwill tour to small towns, and I think he's starting to recover from some of the political fallout he had last year. Are Democrats becoming more rural friendly?
I wouldn't go that far. I think some Democrats listened. I mean, it's an election year.
Right.
The governor's doing a tour because he's trying to make sure he's got enough votes to get re-election. But I don't think all of a sudden it's turned into, hey, I love rural Colorado and I'm going to go out and make sure things are better for you. Because we haven't seen the legislation that would do that. Instead, what we've seen is legislation that maybe doesn't ignore rural Colorado directly, but it sure isn't promoting or helping some of the issues that we're still continuing to see in rural Colorado.
And you said there are 9 members who are Democrats. Again, rural areas, not just R or D. I get that. But do you feel that the other folks in your party are starting to understand, I guess, the sensitivities of people in the rural areas?
I think it's sometimes difficult to understand a lifestyle that's different from your own. But it isn't that we haven't done things for rural Colorado. We've got a rural residency program to try to get more doctors into rural areas. We have, after one of the prison closures, we put $3 million in to try to help rural Colorado that has a single industry base get new industry into their areas. We haven't totally ignored rural Colorado.
Talk to me, running low on time, talk to me about the energy mandate. For those who aren't following, 252 takes renewable energy mandates and puts it on not-for-profit rural electrics. And I've got friends up in the hills, and they've got a timber mill. What they do is they make boards and they sell them. And they said they've got to figure out who they're going to lay off because they're projecting some pretty increased costs. Why is that such a big issue to rural areas? And how
it's a two-edged sword, though, because by mandating more renewable energy, I've got friends, Yuma County, that are leasing their land for windmills. Great profit.
Great subsidy.
Well, great subsidy, but that particular rural area is certainly benefiting from a mandate for more rural renewables.
And I get to eat eagles that fall out of it too, so it's a win-win for all of us.
If you like eagle feathers.
I do like eagle feathers. All right, so Republicans, Democrats, we're all coming together. Kumbaya, we love the rural areas.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Well, we're trying.
We're trying. Thank you.
I'm much more optimistic.
Thank you both. You stay tuned.